Next, we'll add support for different color gain pieces, and this is where things get really flashy. Click on the scripts folder, right-click, and create a new C# script called ColorPiece. Click on the prefabs folder and click on our normal piece prefab. Go back to the scripts folder and add the ColorPiece script to our prefab. This is going to work just like our movable piece component, except it will set the color of the piece instead of moving it. Open up the ColorPiece script. The first thing we need to know is all the different possible colors. I'm going to use an enum for that. Here I've added all the different possible colors, plus any, because later we'll have pieces that can match with any color. Next, we need an array where we can assign a sprite for each color. I'm creating a struct called colorSprite to hold our color type and our sprite. And I'm going to add the system.serializable flag so that our custom struct can be displayed in the inspector. Finally, I'll add a public array of colorSprite objects so that we can assign them in the inspector. Save and go back to the editor. Click on the normal piece prefab. In the inspector, expand the colorSprites array and set the size to 6. In the textures sprites folder, you'll see sprites for each different color. Go ahead and assign the sprite for each color in the inspector. Yellow sprite for the yellow color, purple sprite for the purple color, etc. Since our normal piece has to be one of these 6 colors, we won't worry about the any color type for now. Go back to the ColorPiece script. Just like we did with the piece type prefabs in the grid, we'll convert this array to a dictionary for faster lookup. At the top of the file, add using system.collections.generic to give us access to the dictionary class. I'll then define a private dictionary with types color type and sprite. In awake, I'll loop through our colorSprites array and add the keys and values to our dictionary. First, I'll instantiate our colorSprite dictionary as a new dictionary with types color type and sprite. I loop through all the structs in our colorSprites array. I check if the dictionary already contains the current key, since dictionaries should only have one value for each key. If it doesn't contain it, I'll go ahead and add the key value pair. Now we have a dictionary mapping colors to sprites. The last 2 properties we need are a property for the color of the piece and a reference to the sprite. Knowing the color of the piece will allow us to easily compare it to other pieces for a color match, and having a reference to the sprite will allow us to change it. Here I've created a public property for a color variable with a getter and a setter. The setter calls a function setColor, which we'll define in a minute. I'm also going to add a variable to store the sprite renderer. I'll get a reference to the sprite renderer in awake. I use transform.find to find the child game object named piece. If we drag our normal piece prefab into the scene, you can see that the sprite renderer is on this game object called piece. Go ahead and delete that. So once we've found the piece game object, we can get the sprite renderer component. Finally, we just had to fill out the setColor function. We set our color property to the new color, and then check if our colorSprite dictionary contains a key for the new color. If it does, we assign the sprite of the sprite renderer to the value stored in the dictionary for that color. This will change the sprite of our game piece depending on what color it is. We now just have to tell a grid to create different color pieces. We'll add one more property to ColorPiece to get the number of possible colors. This just returns the length of our colorSprites array that we set in the inspector. Open up the GamePiece script and add a reference to our color component just like we did with the movable piece component. I'm going to copy and paste and replace all the references to movable piece and movable component with ColorPiece and color component. In awake, we'll get a reference to the ColorPiece component just like we did with the movable piece component. And finally, so we can check if a piece is colored or not, we're going to add a function that returns a boolean similar to what we did with isMovable. We'll call it isColored. This will return true if the color component is not equal to null, meaning that it exists. The last step is to open up the grid piece and after we initialize the piece, set the color of it. We check if the piece is colored, and if it is, we set the color of it to a new random color. Remember that our color type is an enum, meaning it can be converted to and from an integer. So, we just need to get a random integer in the range from 0 to the maximum number of colors. Save everything, go back to the editor, and hit play. Now we have a board full of colorful fish. The next step will be filling the board and animating our pieces as they move. One of the key things our grid needs to be able to do is refill itself when pieces are cleared. The first step to achieving that is creating an empty piece type so we can have empty spaces in our grid. Drag the normal piece prefab into the scene from the prefabs folder. Our empty piece type will be a stripped down version of this. With the prefab selected, go to the Game Object menu and click Break Prefab Instance. This way, we won't modify our normal piece prefab. Go ahead and rename the game object to EmptyPiece prefab. Remove the movable piece and ColorPiece components in the inspector. Inside the prefab, delete the piece object, so we're left with just the root game object. Drag this to the prefab folder to create a new prefab, and then delete the object from the scene. Open up the grid script. We're going to add a new piece type called empty to our piece type enum. Save that and go back to the scene. Click on the grid object. In the piece prefabs array, change the size to 2. Element 0 is going to be our empty piece type. Drag the empty piece prefab from the prefabs folder into the inspector. Element 2 will be our normal piece type. Do the same for the normal piece prefab. We'll have our board start empty and then fill up with pieces at the start of the game. To make our lives easier, let's create a function to spawn a new piece. Go back to the grid class. Create a new function called spawnNewPiece that returns a game piece. This function will take the x and y coordinates of the piece in the grid, as well as the piece type. First, we'll instantiate a new game object. We get the prefab from the prefab dictionary based on the piece type, and we get the position using getWorldPosition. And we make the new piece a child of the grid. Finally, we store the game piece component in our pieces array. We then initialize the piece. Finally, we return the new piece. In the grid start function, we'll change it so that instead of creating normal pieces, we're creating empty ones. We'll use our new spawnNewPiece function for that. We can replace all this code with a call to spawnNewPiece, and the piece type will be empty. Hit play, and you can see that the cells are all empty now. Next, we'll write a function to fill in the empty pieces. Now that our board is completely empty, we need to fill it in. Open up the grid script. I'm going to create 2 function stubs, one called fill and one called fillStep. FillStep will only move each piece 1 space, while fill will call fillStep until the board is filled. FillStep will return a boolean. It will be true if any pieces were moved, and false if not. That way, fill knows when the board is filled. I'm going to copy the code for fillStep from the code snippets, and then we'll go over it. FillStep starts with a boolean called movedPiece, which is false. If we encounter a piece that we need to move, we'll set it to true. We end by returning movedPiece. First, we loop through all the columns in reverse order, meaning from bottom to top, since our top is 0. We start our y index at the y dimension -2. Now the reason we do this is because our array is 0 indexed, so there isn't an element at y dim. It's actually from 0 to y dim -1. The reason it's y dim -2 is because we don't care about the bottom row. We're looking for pieces we can move down, and the bottom row can't be moved down, so we can just ignore it. Then we loop through all the rows. The way these nested loops are set up means that we'll be going through each element in each row, and then on to the next row, going from bottom to top, ignoring the bottom row. We get the game piece at the current position and check if it's movable. If it's not movable, it means we can't move it down to fill the empty space, so we can just ignore it. We get the piece below the current piece, which is at x, y plus 1, remember 0's at the top, and we check if it's empty. If it is empty, then we'll move a current piece down into the space below it. We do that by calling the move function in the piece's movable component, and then setting the piece at x, y plus 1 to the current piece. Remember, that's at x, y. We then spawn a new piece at x, y that's empty. Remember, since we moved the current piece down, the space where it was will now be empty. Basically, we're swapping a movable piece with an empty piece below it. And since we moved a piece, we set moved piece to true. The top row is a special case. Since empty space is there, will be filled by creating new pieces. After checking all the rows, which we just did, we'll recheck the top row to see if it has any empty spaces. Again, I'm going to copy some code from the code snippets and paste it below those for loops. We loop through all the cells in the row. Now this is where it can get a bit tricky. Remember that what we did before was find a piece, check if the piece under it was empty, and then move the piece down. Well, right now, there aren't any pieces above the first row. So what we do is basically create a piece in this non-existent -1 row and then move it down into the first row. So our piece below will be at the x coordinate and then in the 0th row, which is the top row. We see if it's empty, and if it is, we create a new piece. Now the reason I'm not using spawn piece here is because we're doing this weird negative row thing. So what I do is I instantiate the piece at the x coordinate in the -1 row. I assign this new piece to the x coordinate in the 0th row of our pieces array, since obviously our array can't have a -1 index, and since the new piece will be moving into the 0th row anyway. When I initialize the piece, I pass in -1 for the y coordinate, so that we can move the piece from -1 to 0, and it'll animate nicely later. Finally, I move the piece to its new coordinate, which is x in 0, the first row, and set the color to a random color. Now we just have to call fill step until the board is filled. This while loop will call fill step, and if it's true, it will just keep calling fill step until it returns false, meaning we didn't move any pieces. With that done, we now just have to call fill in the grid start function. Go to the editor and hit play. You can see that the board is now filled. However, it would be nice if this didn't happen instantaneously. We want the pieces to look like they're falling down, filling the board, and we'll get to that in the next video.